Organizational development, or also known as OD, allows a company to improve its operations and services over time. OD is composed of four phases: entering and contracting, diagnosing, planning and implementing change, and evaluating and institutionalizing change. This video provides key points for communicating the results of the diagnosis. The first step in OD process is entering and contracting. They entail outlining the organization's problems or development possibilities in advance and forming a collaborative partnership between the OD practitioner and members of the client system to address those issues. Even if the company is profitable, there's always space for development. The organization could be experiencing particular problems such as poor product quality, high rates of absenteeism, or dysfunctional conflicts among departments. Entry involves two consultants, internal and external. When it comes to making contact, internal and external OD practitioners confront different hurdles or challenges. Internal OD practitioners may need to shift away from their function as a mere support to the OD process in order to boost their reputation as an objective consultant. Increasing credibility would entail working with critical stakeholders such as senior leaders, potential sponsors, funders, and direct supervisors, and aligning the OD efforts to the organization's needs. The fundamental problem for external consultants is identifying the key people they need to deal with within the company, as well as gaining acceptance and commitment from the various groups and units critical to the OD initiative's implementation. Contracting begins when the business decides to hire or assign an OD practitioner or consultant to begin the OD process. A written agreement is typically used to formalize the partnership. This agreement or contract often describes the following: the objectives and scope of the OD initiative, intervention design, method and project activities, project timetable, roles and responsibilities, ground rules for working together, and resource requirements. Diagnosis begins when the client and the OD practitioner formally agree on the scope of the OD effort. It is the second step of the OD cycle. Kurt Lewin was a German social scientist whose contribution in the field of change management were influenced by his interest in resolving social conflict in organizations and in society. He proposed Lewin's change theories and the action research model. This is an action research process. An action research process undergoes different phases. Planning. You start with an inquiry and define a specific research question. It must be something that can actually be tested. Next, to obtain a better grasp of the subject, you undertake literature review. Finally, you will define your data methods throughout the defined process, set deadlines, and obtain required issues. Moving on to the second part of the procedure, this is where you perform many experiments and data gathering cycles. You may collect qualitative data such as observations, artifacts, and interviews, as well as quantitative data such as rubric scores, surveys, and achievement data. You move to analysis after working. Typically, you'll begin by charting or graphing the data and exploring for certain trends. You might also discuss it with peers, free write in a journal, or create a cluster map before eventually writing the results. Finally, moving on to the last phase, which is your conclusion. This is where you may show people your findings and reflect on your own work. As you improve your craft as a better and more creative researcher, this will eventually lead to newer questions, and the cycle will continue. Bertalanffy's system theory. Similar to action research, systems theory provides the conceptual foundation upon which many diagnosis frameworks were developed. Von Bertalanffy was an Austrian biologist known as one of the founders of general systems theory. He also introduced the concepts of closed systems and open systems as part of his discourse on general systems theory. The word system is generally defined as a set of connected elements or parts that form a complex whole. So in an organization, we have three main parts. We have the set of inputs, we have the processes or throughputs, and the output. For example, a pizza has inputs that you might expect: the people that are doing the work, the food, the ovens, refrigerator, pizza boxes, and all other materials. Then followed by the process or throughputs, where you make the dough, you cut the vegetables, mix the sauce, answer the phones, take the orders, lots of works in pizza place, and then you have outputs, which are hopefully pizza delivered to happy customers. Levels of diagnosis. Organizational level focuses on how external factors affect the organization's key processes. Group level focuses on the input of organizational design and how these design components affect the group design components. Individual level ensures that the right people are fitted to the right job, which in turn promotes good attitudes and work environments that are conducive to productivity. Diagnostic tools. Some of the early diagnostic tools developed were the SWOT analysis, problem tree analysis, and fishbone diagram. These tools focus primarily on understanding the problems that beset an organization, determining their root causes, and using the data gathered to develop appropriate interventions. SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses serves as the internal origin attributes of the organization, while opportunities and threats are the external origin attributes of the environment. Problem tree analysis is a mapping tool that uses parts of a tree to illustrate the relationship between organizational problems and their causes as well as consequences.
The trunk of the tree represents the problem identified by the organization, while the root represents the causes of the problem, and the branches symbolizes the consequences of the problem. Another tool is the fishbone diagram. It is a simple tool that permits effective and quick root causes in the pursuit of corrective actions. It is also used for brainstorming issues and reasons of particular problems.
Diagnostic process. During the contracting stage, the objectives and scope of the OD initiative are laid down and agreed upon. The scope contains the specifics of the intervention, including the diagnostic process. Data collection. Ideally, the data should be collected from three sources: the decision maker, focal group, and the internal and external groups who would be affected by the change process. Communicating diagnostic results. Communicating the results is an important step in the diagnosis process. There's a saying that feedback at its best creates energy and direction for change. Cummings and Worley proposed that the content of the feedback data should be relevant, understandable, descriptive, verifiable, timely, limited, significant, comparative, and unfinalized. In certain instances, such as when results of the diagnosis are not favorable, it is best to present first before conducting a larger organizational meeting. After the presentation of the diagnosis results, the OD practitioner ideally helps the client plan its intervention. These interventions logically focus on the recommendations provided by the OD practitioner as a result of the diagnosis.
Losing time, I'm fading fast. I just wanna make it last. Try to